My name's Cam. I grew up on a dairy farm in Cambridge and went through St. Peter's. When I was 13, I really had no idea what I wanted to do, and sort of got forced, or not forced, but decided to make the move down to dirty Dunedin, and moved down there. Spent 3 years down there studying commerce, and just at the end of last year, I've come out with a degree, Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting and Economics. I really enjoyed my time down there. And during my time down there, my mate and I started the FlatPack company, a furniture retailer. And it's been an awesome journey. So at the end of our first year, we were moving out of halls into a flat, and we signed an unfurnished flat like most people do in Dunedin, and we needed a bed. We had a couple options that were both pretty appalling. Our first option was to buy a second-hand bed, which is stained, uncomfortable. There's been 10 students sleeping on that bed before you have the pleasure of sleeping on it. It's not ideal. The other option is to go to one of these large bed retailers and drop $1,500 on a brand new bed, wait till the end of a week and spend 5 days on the couch, which again isn't ideal as a student spending your first couple of days in a flat. So what we looked into is surely there's got to be a more affordable, better way about finding a bed for all students, not just us. So we looked into importing product and came across a supplier, mattress supplier in China and a bed frame supplier in Malaysia. And over the last 3 years, we've really tried to set up and expand the FlatPack. We started in Dunedin, have expanded into Christchurch, Wellington, and recently Auckland, and trying to become sort of the renowned student bed retailer for all students in those regions. And essentially what we do is guaranteed delivery on the same day the customer moves into their flat. All of our deliveries are done in-house by our student delivery team. So we just employ students during the December, January, February period to deliver those beds. And we've had a pretty reasonable track record so far, and just trying to grow year after year. We came up with this amazing idea to sell beds to students, which was all good. We jumped on Alibaba and honestly probably spent a month talking to different suppliers. We got to the point of jumping on these Skype calls with Chinese manufacturers, and at the time we were a couple 19-year-olds, had no idea what we were doing or what to expect. And the first couple calls we jumped on and we just could not be taken seriously, like as a couple of young guys. They were laughing at us, we were laughing at them because they couldn't speak English, not to be racist, but it really was not a great experience, and like a bit of a turn off into how it was sort of a roadblock, how we actually can do this. So after months of going down that track and finding out that it's probably not viable for us at this point in time, we decided to look local and found a sourcing agent up in Auckland who essentially runs all of the communication between the factory and us. So we don't talk directly to the factory. They have that relationship. They've built that relationship up over the last 10 odd years, which is really good. And they're sort of a trusted supplier. So all of our communication now goes through a sourcing agent, which is super helpful and takes a whole lot of stress out of supply chain, which is good. In terms of probably what those first few months look like, in terms of sales, we had this idea, and then we thought every student lives in a halls of residence. Most VSS students live in a hall. So in Dunedin, there's 15 halls, 4,500 students across those halls. We thought, why not try and get ambassadors in each of those halls, or call them ambassadors or hall reps, and their job to be to sell to their hall. So the first few months looked like we were recruiting. We recruited 30 odd hall ambassadors, and they were essentially our sales team. And we paired that with e-commerce and digital marketing. And in those early days, we had no idea about digital marketing. Didn't know what Facebook Ads Manager was. So we sort of learned everything from the ground up, and just talked to friends, family, talked to anyone who knew anything about marketing, and learned everything ourselves. Watched tens or hundreds of hours of YouTube videos. So we're really self-taught. We didn't have any money, so we couldn't afford to outsource this. And essentially, as we began getting sales, we sort of tried to grow out the business. A great example of that would have been at the start, we just built the website on Squarespace, which was all good, but there were quite a few limitations to that with some of these pre-built website packages. The biggest limitation was that when students purchased from us, they didn't know their delivery details. So we needed to figure out a way to leave all of their delivery details blank and come in and update them later. And we could do that manually, but it just wasn't sort of a scalable system. So as sales came in, we actually designed a whole new back end of the system. That's sort of an example of how we've built this and grown as sales have grown, and used revenue to continue building out operations. Yeah, so coming across an idea, we spent our first year in halls. We were both reasonably business minded, Angus and I. Angus is the other co-founder of the FlatPack company. And we'd spend late nights just in each other's rooms trying to think of stuff, and from a micro level or a macro level. And it wasn't until the end of our first year where we were both sitting in our bedroom late at night, had a mate come in, said, "Have you guys sorted a bed for your flat yet?" And we like, "No, haven't even thought about it." And she just started complaining about how difficult it was. And then we thought, if we're in her shoes, and which we are, how are we going to sort a bed for our flat? And the more we thought about it, the more we thought, there's a big opportunity here. So we were in the middle of exams and could have so easily said, we'll just, we'll leave it till next year. We'll leave it till the end of exams. But we decided, let's pull the trigger. So the next day we got on the phone and actually walked around Dunedin and bought every secondhand bed we could get our hands on. And we said, we'll pick them up, the end of this week or this weekend. What day suits you? And we gave them option of like Friday, Saturday. So on Friday or Saturday, we will come in and pick up your bed. We hired out a 40-foot container, and on the Friday and Saturday, borrowed a mate's car, hired a trailer, and started picking up these beds and stored them in this 40-foot container. And in the meantime, we posted on our whole Facebook page and said, we've got 30 secondhand beds for sale. $200, we'll have it delivered to your flat on the same day you move in next year. And within 20 minutes, we had 30 people, and we were like, wow, like this is crazy. So we went through the process of picking all these beds up. We stored them in this 40-foot container and came back in February the following year and delivered them to these students' flats on the same day they moved in. And it was all super manual. And that was sort of what you'd consider like the MVP, minimum viable product, to show that actually that we have something here. So that was the super early days of the FlatPack, before it was even the FlatPack. It was a thing we did over summer instead of getting a summer job sort of thing. And then since then, going through that process, we just saw that that's just not scalable. Hence why we looked down the importing route and came across an importing agent, and the rest is history, I guess. So I guess, like I said before, we had no idea about marketing. We didn't know anything really. I knew a little bit about accounting, and that was it. So in the early days, it was super casual. We started with these 30 ambassadors, and one of the first things we did was printed posters and got them out into every hall. And when we did that, we thought, where's the best place to put these posters? We thought, why don't we put them on the back of every toilet in every toilet block in every hall across the country, so that when someone sits down, they look up and go, "There's the FlatPack," So we did that, and we got into a whole lot of trouble with halls. But I think it's always easier to ask for forgiveness, around something like that, and it boosted a lot of awareness, which was cool. So that was probably one of the first things we did to really kickstart the brand and get awareness out there for it. The second thing we did was a big giveaway on Facebook. Yeah, three years ago, Facebook was a platform that our age group used, and now it's not. But we did this big giveaway. We shared it into whole Facebook pages around the country. Essentially, $1,000. Like this post, tag a mate, like our Facebook page, and yeah, that seemed to blow up, which was really cool. And I can't remember off the top of my head how many comments, but say 5,000 or 10,000 comments for a company that no one had ever heard of. And rather than just announcing the winner online like everyone does, we thought, why not go and try and find this person and give it to them, in person. So we drew the winner, and it was actually a girl in Selwyn, down in Dunedin, Selwyn College. And we got up in front of the dining hall in the middle of dinner and said, there's someone in this room. It's just won $1,000. And we had it sort of pre-planned, made sure that she was actually in the room, and announced it. And it was really cool. Just another way to market and get in front of people, especially our target market. All of those students are moving out of halls into a flat. They're going to need a bed the following year. So that was sort of another perfect way to run in-person marketing. Bear in mind, this was all before we knew anything about digital. So that was sort of the really early days. And each year we've tried to add a few more things to the plan. So in that first year, we began learning about digital marketing, learning about advertising through Facebook Ads Manager, and learned it all ourselves, learned how to run ads, learned how to create campaigns. And yeah, it's just, we tested and found sort of what copy works, what assets work, and it ran with that. And yeah, like I said, year after year, we've tried to improve that. And just in this past year, one of the things that we've really focused on is tried to add humor and sort of relatable humor to all of our ads and all of our content in general. So we've recently got a couple guys down in Dunedin on board to do some of the content creation for us, which has been really cool. They're really humorous, and it's not something Angus and I have naturally. So it's really cool to sort of leave it up to them. We sort of point them in the right direction, but they add all the bells and whistles to a lot of our content. Yeah, if I was a student looking to start up a business, it's just about pulling the trigger, I guess. You can do all the learning, you can watch as many YouTube videos as you like, but at the end of the day, it's about acting and applying that knowledge to something. So we were super fortunate just to pull the trigger and just to go for it. We were in the middle of exams, and we thought, bugger it, let's try. And I think that that's really important, is to actually go and do something. I think it's also important just to be curious. If you're at university, like Angus and I were, looking for ideas, it's just about being curious as to why things are the way they are, and they don't have to be that way. You can change that, and as long as you have just sort of some self-belief and desire to do, then you actually can change that. In terms of like finances, it was pretty difficult. Like Angus and I really struggled. We invested, a couple grand in at the start. That's sort of all we had. We were living off student loan, and we just tried to get revenue as quick as we could. So we pre-sold product that we sort of hadn't even seen before. We hadn't even got sort of samples really. We had, a few images that we chucked on the website and just tried to push to get people across the line any way we could. So that sort of allowed us to then go, okay, now we can spend a bit of money here and here and here. But we made sure that we didn't leak or spend anything where we shouldn't be spending it. And I guess the the nature of our product was that, you know, it costs $400 or $500 for a bed. So every sale was another $500 in the bank that we could spend, which was cool. Although we couldn't spend all of it. But I guess that's what I would focus on, is just trying to create, you know, some sort of income, other income as a student, whether you work part-time, trying to save just as much as you can to then go and do something with it. And it does, you know, you have to spend money to make money, but yeah, just any way you can find extra cash or additional cash, save it and spend it super wisely. I like having freedom, and I like the idea of getting up in the morning knowing that I can spend my day however I like. I know that working in a 9-to-5 job wouldn't give me that, so that definitely motivates me. I get really motivated like around the idea of building something that wasn't initially there, whether it be, you know, well, a great example is the business. Like 3 years ago, the FlatPack never existed, and now it does. And you know, we've helped thousands of students over the last couple of years who otherwise would have spent $1,500 on a bed instead of 500, or spent 3 years on a dusty secondhand bed that they thought was so uncomfortable that they never did anything about. So I think that motivates me, and people definitely motivate me. Like when you get yourself or surround yourself with really interesting people who have done what you're trying to do already, you know, done that in their life, that's super motivating, and to hear their stories and to apply and learn from what they've done so that you don't make the same mistakes in your journey. I always, Angus and I always love jumping on calls with those people and hearing their stories and how they've gotten to where they've gotten to. I think we're pretty fortunate in New Zealand that everyone's really only an email away. Like literally, you can reach out to whoever, and if you send the right email, they will respond to you. It's amazing, and I don't think you find that in many other places around the world. So, yeah, my advice to someone would be reach out to those people and have those conversations, and make sure that you know what you want to get out of those conversations, and make sure that you are talking to the right person, because there are people who can lead you down the wrong path, and we've definitely found that in the past. But yeah, just surround yourself with those people and learn from them. I would have been 3 years ago, I would have been really gutted if we decided that in the middle of exams we thought it would be, you know, too hard to try and buy 30 secondhand beds as well. If we never pulled the trigger there, we would have been a year behind. We would have graduated last year and had to go and get a job, and therefore wouldn't have been able to focus on the FlatPack. So rather than changing anything, I'm just super thankful and super grateful that we decided to pull the trigger when we did, because it was, looking back, it could have been so easy just to put it off, you know, for another year. So easy. So I don't know. We've been super lucky. Like so many things have just gone our way, and yeah, I don't know if I would have changed anything. Just I guess always staying curious and just trying to network, grind to meet people, and get in front of people and learn from them. I think success is defined by waking up in the morning and being happy with, you know, actually genuinely happy with what you're doing, and enjoying every day. And I think what helps is just keeping things in perspective and looking back on your journey and knowing that you've achieved, you know, these certain things, and you've gotten to where you are now, and you've got a long way to go, but just enjoy the ride. Yeah, I don't think it's definitely not defined by money. I think that's a common misconception, and yeah, you just got to love what you do and surround yourself with people who who you like being around, and who like being around you too. I think that's the key to happiness is being around being around people who enjoy your company.